recording this. I would not use the budget guidelines. I would use those benchmarks that I just shared with you. And the reason why I would do that is because if you have a salon whose retail is above 20%, then you're going to run out of inventory. If you have a salon whose retail is below 10%, you're going to be ordering too much inventory. So the best way that I know is to take last week's. Now, you might say, well, Glenn, I don't order every week. Okay, great. Then take the last 2 weeks of sales times 10% for professional times 50% for retail and use that. So whatever the level of frequency it is that you order, then you just take those sales from the previous time. And in our salons, we do it every week. And then every week we're monitoring, like in that example I just shared with you, we should be ordering $9,640. If I order 11,000 this week, then next week my order should be lower, because that means either A, I'm not ordering the right amount of inventory, or B, I just ordered too much inventory. And some weeks there may be a promotion, might be a special on where I can order certain product, and if I order more, I get a special discount or I get savings. I'm all about taking advantage of those. But the next week or the next time I order, I should be adjusting those inventory amounts. And then most importantly, at the end of the month, then I want to just, if I don't have a system in place to be able to monitor at the end of the month, how much did I order and how much should I have been ordering based on actual sales? Guys, if there's anything I'm going to share with you about the first step on this, is at the end of the month, you've got to go in and reconcile what were my actual sales for the month, how much should I have ordered, and then how much did I order? Because if you don't do that, what ends up happening is you just become unconscious. And then the next thing you know, it's like, oh my God, I've got way too much inventory on hand. And the reason you end up having too much inventory is because people don't check how much should have I ordered in the month of September and how much did I actually order, which means you have to have some type of tracking system every single week or every 2 weeks whenever you order, so that you can monitor exactly what's going on in terms of that usage part.
Question for you, Glenn.
Yes.
When in your system, so you just talked about, taking advantage of sales with the suppliers. Do you change what you paid from week to week for each product if you got them on sale, or do you always leave that at the full price?
Yeah, great question. If something is on sale, we leave it in our POS at the regular, whatever the regular cost is, we leave it at the regular cost. But when we get to doing inventory counts, I'll explain to you how this becomes an advantage for you to be able to buy things that are on sale. If I know all of a sudden there's there's color that's on sale and it's like for every 10 you get 2 free, then I gotta be honest with you, I'm gonna load up at the end of the month and I might almost buy an extra month of inventory because I'm saving 15% off my color. I know in the next month I'm gonna use it, but then I gotta adjust the inventory next month to overcompensate with the fact that I bought a ton of inventory, but in the system, I just put it all in at whatever the regular price is. That's the normal price based on the manufacturer.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great questions. Thank you for the questions. Anything else before I move on to number 2? No, if we're good, just give me like thumbs up or 2 thumbs up or whatever. We're good. Okay, spectacular. Thank you. So let's talk about number 2 is, so we've gone through, we know how much we should be ordering. And once again, at the end of September, you should be able to go in and say, what were my actual sales using these formulas? Here's what actually I should have bought based on sales. Then you got to go to my order sheet. How much did I actually order? This is going to give me an accurate amount in terms of what should have happened in my salon. Number 2 is weekly inventory spot check. So maintaining accurate on-hand inventory numbers in your POS system is critical for 2 reasons. So number 1 reason is the more accurate that I have on-hand numbers in my retail area that are linked to my POS system, because you should be ordering your inventory based on mins and maxes based on what's in your system. So if your software system, your POS is not accurate, and you're using your ordering process based on your mins and the maxes, then you're going to be ordering too little or too much of product if you do not have accurate on hand. And this is even more so critical for the retail side of it. And number two is no product should ever leave your salon without being run in and or out of your POS system, so that any given point in time, whatever is on the shelf should be exactly the same as what reflects in the system. If not, then either I have a shrinkage problem, I have a theft problem, or I have something that's going on in my salon. So let me give you an example of how we do this in our company. All of our retail ordering is based on our POS system. So I would assume most people on this call have a POS system. I promise you, no matter what type of point of sale system you have, there is some process in there or some button in there that allows you to reorder inventory based on your mins and the maxes. If you're not currently using that, then I would find out, how do I get that set up within your system? Because when you order, I call it the spray and pray method of ordering. The spray and pray is you say to somebody at your front desk, Kimberly, can you go place an order because my sales rep's come by in an hour and I didn't get a chance to put the order together. Can you run to the retail shelf, put the order together? Kimberly starts looking at the shelves and she does what I call the spray and pray. It's just like looking at the shelves, taking a swag, which is a scientific wild ass guess of what we need for retail. Now, the problem is Kimberly doesn't know that one of the items that's on the shelf we've been out of for 3 weeks, but because Kimberly doesn't know we've been out of it, she doesn't reorder because she doesn't know it's there. Don't raise your hand on this, but I will tell you 60 to 70% of salons, that's how they order retail. It's just like, can somebody just put a retail order together in the salon? That scares the living daylights out of me because I'm tying up a lot of money in retail that maybe I don't need, and there may be products that are not on the shelf that I need to order. If there's anywhere in my salon that I'm okay with being over inventory, I would want to be over inventoried on retail, not professional. Why? Because retail makes me money. Professional just allows me to do the services that it is that I'm doing. So let me explain to you what happens in our salon company. In the run of a month, we want to check the accuracy of our entire. I'm just going to put you on mute, Christy. In our salon company, we check the accuracy of every single item that's on our retail shelf. So I'm going to give you just an example. On the first Monday of the month, we might check all shampoo and conditioners. Second Monday of the month, we check all styling products and finishing products. Third week of the month, we check all skincare, miscellaneous products. The fourth, we check all electrical appliances, tools, sundry items. But every week, we go to the shelf and we count, okay, how many of these products are on the shelf? There's 12 here. We have a list. We write it down, the number that's there. Then we go over to the POS system and we look at the fact that product A, so I'm just going to use this as an example, quick dry mist, we're supposed to have 12 on the shelf. I go to the computer and we're like, oh my God, there's only 9. So then I got to adjust the inventory. But then the problem is, why did I have 12 last week and this week I only have 9? While the staff run from the salon area to grab product on the shelves, which to me is a taboo. If they're going to do that, then I've got to make sure I'm adjusting the inventory. We're going to talk more about how you deal with station product and manage that system. But every week I'm going in and checking what's the accuracy rate I want to have. I'm looking for like the 90 to 95% accuracy rate. And I would write that down as a benchmark that you should use, that when I check that inventory on a weekly basis, I should be somewhere in and around 90 to 95% accuracy in terms of those retail checks. So why is it critical? I want to make sure if I'm ordering off of my POS, that I'm ordering based on actually what's going on the shelf. But number two is I need to have information that's going to give me data when all of a sudden quick dry goes on sale and it's like you buy 9, you get 3 free. Well, if I know we're going through 60 of those a month, then great. At the end of the month, I'm going to order next month's supply because I'm getting it at 16 or 17% off. Okay, let me take a time out and just kind of ask questions on number 2, which is weekly inventory spot checks. Questions or comments you might have.
Would there be a good way to utilize like Excel sheets to keep that organized? Because I feel like, at least with our salon, the amount of products that we carry, for me, I'm not in inventory, I'm just watching for information, but that makes me overwhelmed to count like over 100 products every week. Is there tools that you use to utilize that accuracy?
Yeah, so great question, Ashley. What we do in our salon company is we have a printout of all the retail products that we carry. And then every week we just, as I mentioned, we just break it down into week by week. We're not counting everything. We're just counting different sections. So on that checklist, they're just monitoring what is it we're counting from week to week, and then they're just putting in the numbers. Now, if your salon is at the point where your front desk team is so damn busy they can't even get up to use the restroom, then I get it. But in most salons, I can promise you, if I went to your salons today, there's either going to be a level 1 stylist or an associate who's not busy today. And in our salon company, we have a little saying that says, if you're a level 1 stylist and you're not busy doing clients, I'm going to keep you busy. We call it downtime expectations. And one of the downtime expectations is to help out at the front desk. So if you're not busy, you precious ray of sunshine, I'm going to give you some tasks. So who can be doing some of that checks? It could be people that are stylists that aren't busy, or it could be somebody at the front desk. And I'm with you, Ashley. It overwhelms me as well. But what overwhelms me even more is when I know the 15% of all the money in our salon company is going out the door in the form of inventory. So we do have an Excel spreadsheet that we're able to track that. Kelly?
Okay, so my question is that we've had, I'm going to say, a bunch of brands over the years, but also, you know, things come and go, come and go. At what point do you just delete stuff out of your system, right? Because
it becomes redundant.
It's redundant, or like, so we use Forest, and whenever we go to count inventory, it's like, do you want to count these things? And it'll either keep it where it is or you can wipe it to 0. But we just have so much in there that I just feel like our inventory is screwed up literally all the time. No matter what we do, it's always jacked up.
Yeah, so great question. I think number 7 or 8 on my top 10 list is what I call cleansing redundant inventory. So if you're okay, I don't think we'll get to it today, but we're going to get to that, because that is definitely a critical thing, is cleaning up and making sure that if I have inventory that's not moving, I got to have a strategy for that, which we'll talk about on our second session.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
So we know what it is we should be ordering. We have benchmarks in terms of the amount we should be ordering for retail, for professional. We're going to do, you might say, Glenn, there's no way I can do that on a monthly basis. Okay, then you know what? Do it on a quarterly basis. Do it on a bi-monthly basis. But you've got to realize, if you want your business to be 15 to 20% of your business in retail, you got to have a system in place that ensures that what's on the retail shelves is what's in your software system. Here's the other thing I've learned is, I believe that everybody in the world is an honest person. So my belief is, I want to make sure that I have systems in place that keep my honest people honest. So I want people in my company know that every week I check the retail inventory. I want people to know that I'm checking the back bar. I want people to know that I'm checking the accuracy of the color. Because the moment that people believe you're not checking that, people begin to justify in their mind why it's okay for them to leave and take a quick dry or take a couple tubes of color. Because they're like, oh my God, Micah's got so much color in the back room. It's not an issue if I take 2 or 3 because she's loaded. She's got tons of color. It's not even an issue. So I'm just going to borrow some, but I'm just not going to replace it. And so I'm a big believer in having these systems in place allows people in your salon and clients in your salon to keep them honest and to keep people aware of the fact that I'm monitoring and have systems in place, let alone the fact that I'm doing this for their sake, so that when a client comes in to buy product, I'm ensured that we have the right product that's going to be in place. All right, number 3, let's look at number 3 and walk through this. So we know how much we should be ordering. We know what the mins and maxes should be. So the next one, I think, is pretty self-explanatory, but enter all SKUs, which are the products in your POS with proper pricing. So by adding any SKUs or products to every, so if you are able, if you have a scanner, if you're able to track, however you track your inventory, but having some type of a product description, SKU represents, it means stock keeping up. So basically I'm keeping up with the inventory I'm carrying. Salon owners can easily track the quantity of available products. Owners can create threshold limits to let them know when new purchase orders must be made. So I want to make sure that I'm tracking all inventory that comes into my salon, so I can easily be monitoring the quantity and the flow of these products. And then here's the other big one, is with vendor pricing changing on a regular basis, it ensures that you're charging the client the correct amount based on your cost. So in our company, and I'm going to talk about this on the second phase of these inventory cost controls, when we receive an order, it is absolutely mandatory that whoever receives the order and entering the order into the computer, we want to be spot checking the pricing on what's on those retail items, especially because I don't know about you guys, but I know in Canada where we are, and I know for you guys in the United States and in Canada, there's been a lot of product changes in terms of pricing over the past 18 months, almost to the point you're like, oh my mother God, I can't keep up with the change in prices. And here's the problem is sometimes there's changes in prices and we don't even know about it. So if I'm not checking to make sure I have the proper pricing and I'm working the front desk, the product could come in and say that the price is $11, but in my mind, the computer says it's $10. So if it's at $10 in the United States, I'm selling it for $20. If the cost went to $11, now I should be selling it at $22. So I've got to make sure I have some type of system in place that when that order comes in, I'm checking that level of accuracy based on what's in that POS system. Okay. And once again, if it's not you, then somebody at your front desk team, somebody that's a level 1 stylist, has got to be monitoring as this is coming in. And that's why having a weekly checklist, that if somebody is your front desk person or the lead person on your team at the front desk, then they've got to be checking what's going on in terms of that accuracy. All right, let me stop. Any questions you have on these first 3 or any questions in general that you might have? So by all means, fire away, everybody.
Glenn, you may be planning to touch on this later on, but do you, right now, we're only adjusting the levels that we want to have in stock twice a year. So like springtime versus fall time, just based on like lighteners go up, 5 and 6 in goes up in the fall, lighteners go up in the spring. Do you recommend, like how often do you recommend doing those readjustments in your min and max?
Yeah, great question. We do the exact same thing, Jamie, is twice a year. We'll adjust the mins and the maxes based on seasonal, but we also will adjust it just based on the trend, or more importantly, sales. So as I'm seeing, if all of a sudden my sales in the first half of the year to the second half of the year, if I'm looking at my sales and it's like, wow, our sales are going up 20%. The mins and the maxes should be self-adjusting based on history, but then certain times of the year, I might be going through more blonding colors than I might be in other times of the year. So I'm going to be adjusting that inventory, like you're saying, Jamie, is exactly what we do, is twice a year based on seasonal trends. But if sales are changing and it's like all of a sudden our sales are going through the roof, then I got to make sure I'm making some real-time adjustments based on that. And the other part is just like, I know we just got a bunch of price increases from one of our manufacturers. And if nobody is checking the invoice to make sure that what's on the invoice is what we're charging on the retail shelf, we could be losing a lot of money in retail cost of goods because we're not charging the right amount in terms of that type of situation. Okay. Yes, Kelly.
Right, so Karen, she's our new front desk and we're trying
Yes.
to get her into like operational manager situations here. So her question, do you want to ask?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Her question was figuring out mins and maxes, because this is going to be one of the things that she's taking care of, right? So
Yeah.
how do you figure out what your mins and maxes are supposed to be?
Does anybody on the call have Forest as a software? Does anybody have Forest software? No?
I do.
Sorry?
I do.
No, I know you guys do, but I was wondering if anybody else had
That's
Forest, because I'm not familiar with Forest, but here's what I would do is I would just get in touch with Forest. And what you're probably going to have to do is, do you have the inventory currently in the system?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you have the inventory in the system, all POS systems have got to have somewhere in there under the inventory system, some type of way to be able to go in and look at the average flow of product from week to week in terms of the sale of the product. Though the sale of the product helps you to produce the mins and the maxes. So I would reach out to Force and just explain them. We're trying to make these decisions based on the mins and maxes and see if they can give you some insight on that. Because unfortunately, I don't know Force well enough to understand where it might
I know
be.
how to find that report, but
Yeah.
is there like a calculation that you do specifically to say like, I'm pretty sure I remember however many you've gone through in the last 3 months, whatever that average is, then you order like 1.5 times, or that should be your.
Yeah, I see where your questions come. When I look at our retail, whatever my top 10 selling retail items are, I always want to have 2 times what I normally sell on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. So let me give you an example. I'm just going to use quick dry because it's easy. If I know quick dry, I sell 15 quick dry a month, and it's one of my top sellers, I want to make sure I keep 2 times that amount on my shelves.
Mhm.
So I've got to go in and whatever the top 10 selling items are, I want to be carrying 2 times what I normally sell. So if I order on a weekly basis and on a weekly basis, I'm selling 5 quick dry, then I want to be carrying 10. Now, if it's beyond the top 10, I might want to be carrying 1.5 times what I'm normally selling, or even as low as only 1 time, because I don't want to have too much inventory on hand.
Mm.
But if it's my top 10, I want to always be carrying two times, or basically what we're saying is 2 months of inventory or 2 weeks of inventory, so that I never run out of a hot selling item.
So that kind of leads me to another question, and that you've kind of touched on is, if it's outside of your top 10 or top 20, whatever the case may be, I find an issue that we end up having is like we order to our top 10 or we order to our top 20. So once you've kind of exhausted that list, and if you've kind of maxed out your budget on that list, then you inevitably have these products that there's one-off products here and there that now are empty. Like, how do you, I guess, keep within your budget, but also make sure that you have some of these? They might be popular, but just not as popular as your top 20. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's where I might only be
Fall
carrying
off.
one. I might only be carrying 1 or 2 of them. But the key is if I'm only selling that product once every 3 months, at some point it's not worth me to even have the product on the shelf,
Okay.
right? Which is, we'll get into that when we talk about cleansing inventory.
Yeah.
But having that, none of this is a perfect science, but I know this much. I always want to know in my retail area, what are the top 10, what are the top 15 selling items? Because the top 15 selling items on your retail level probably account for 25 to 30% of your sales. And I never want to run out of those top 10 or top 15 items. And if I don't know that, I need to find out what those numbers need to be.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Thank you for the question. Number 4, so let's kind of go back here. So we talked about entering the products in terms of the proper pricing. The next one is very, 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 very dear and near to my heart. So this is doing accurate monthly and or quarterly inventory checks. So if you don't count the complete inventory right now, I would go to quarterly inventory check. So the process of doing a physical count of the inventory is to ensure the systems we have in place for the inventory are working. So this is going in and doing a complete count. So in our salon company, every 90 days, we count everything in the back bar and we count everything on the retail side. After we do the count, then we go back into the POS system and adjust the inventory so that what we actually counted is in our system. If they don't agree, if those two numbers don't match, which invariably they don't, then we must analyze why they don't match and correct any problems to ensure that they can rectify. The challenge is this, is that when inventory is not managed properly, it creates several problems for the company, and therefore the salon leader, the person responsible for it, must understand that this inventory system needs to be incorporated in a day-to-day type of basis. So when I look at doing, so in our company, let me explain this to you how this works, is on October the 1st or September the 30th, we will be doing a complete count of all of our inventory in our company. Now, every week I'm checking the accuracy of the retail. So I should be pretty comfortable that that should be accurate. But somebody from our team, how long does it take? It might take a couple of hours to get 1 or 2 people, but we count everything. All of the retail items, all of the color, all of the processing solutions. And what it's basically doing is giving us an accurate count of what it is that we have for inventory, but more importantly, not only what it is that we have for inventory, but more importantly, I'm going to go in and whoever my bookkeeper is or my accountant is, once a quarter, I'm going to give the accountant the adjusted inventory so that they can adjust the financial statement. So on your income statement, your accountant is going to be adjusting your inventory either up or down based on your inventory counts. So it's really, really, really important that on a quarterly basis, you get a bit of an idea of how much inventory do I physically have in terms of a cost. How much should I be carrying in inventory at cost? Basically, if I shouldn't be carrying more than 2 to 3 months of inventory at cost. So if you want to write that down, 2 to 3 months of inventory at cost. So let me give you an example of what I mean. I've got a salon that does $50,000 a month in hair service sales. My cost of goods should be 10% of that, which is $5,000. Right? So at cost, it should be 5,000. I shouldn't be carrying more than 2 to 3 times. So 2 times that is going to be 10,000. So when I go to count my inventory, I should be carrying between $10,000 and $15,000 at cost, right? Same as the retail. Let me give an example. I count my retail on average is 8,000 a month. My cost for that 8,000 is going to be around 4,000. So when I go to count my inventory, I should have no more than 2 to 3 months at cost. So if my normal retail sales are 8, my cost is 4, I should be carrying probably no more than $8,000 to $12,000 in inventory. So when I go to do my quarterly count, what I'm looking for is just accuracy of how much inventory am I carrying based on the flow of my sales. Now, if you go and you count your inventory and you're like, oh my God, I'm way over inventory, on our next time we're together, I'm going to dive into what do we do if that's the situation? Because what a lot of people have a tendency to do is say, oh, I'm going to return it. If it's retail items, I want to sell it because I'd rather sell it and make some margin, discount it and make some margin than return it and make no margin. So we don't just automatically say, okay, let's return stuff. We try to have strategies in place on an ongoing basis what we can be doing to clean up that inventory. But also you need on your income statement, on your financial statements, you need to have an accurate inventory count once a quarter to know exactly how well it is that we're doing. And then the accountant or your bookkeeper will make adjustments based on where that inventory is. Kimberly, yes. Question?
Hi, good morning.
Good
Yes, so with the overstock of inventory that you have an overabundance of and that you want to run like a promotion or something, what I have found in the past is that stylists will get hooked on that product and or they get their clients hooked on it. And then when we don't carry it as often as we had an abundance of, we get into like a problem where it's like we feel like we have to replenish it again when it really wasn't a top selling item and we only promoted it just because we wanted to get it off the shelf. So what's your recommendation on that?
Yeah, so that's, it's funny you should say that. We've had the exact same thing happen. So all of a sudden product X is not selling. We don't sell much of it. We put it on sale at 20% off. And then it's like, oh my God, now we're selling it again. To me, that's a good problem to have because now I've got to figure out, okay, that product that never sold before is now selling. So then I just got to look at, on average, what's the trend of the product. But this goes back to why I want to be using the mins and max, because sometimes what people will say in our company is, oh my God, we sell a ton of that product. Why are we not carrying enough of it? And I'm like, I know you think we sell a ton of it, but I check the inventory. We sell 2 of it a month. So if we're selling 2 of it a month, we'll order 3. We're not ordering 6. So if that item goes from 2 a month to 6 a month, well then great. If we're carrying 6, we'll order 9 so that we have 9 in stock to manage the 6. So you might get into situations like that, but I think like anything, you just want to make sure that we're turning over that inventory. And if I'm counting the inventory, then it's going to allow me to have a better level of understanding of how much it is that I'm selling. And more importantly, my ability to try to figure out how to manage it. And back to your point, Kimberly, I mean, if we run into problems where it's like all of a sudden people believe that we're selling it again, great. I'm more than happy to carry anything that we have in our company as long as I know we're selling it. If we're not selling it, I can't be either A, carrying it, or B, I have to be carrying less of it to accommodate the fact that we're not selling the product. So great question. Yeah, and I mean, this is not a perfect science. If you're in a situation where you're like, Glenn, I don't do any inventory systems. It's a scientific wild ass guess. I just get somebody to run to the front desk. They just put stuff together and put orders together. Then great. You've got to slowly start introducing some of these systems from doing weekly checks, making sure that on a weekly basis that you're pricing product properly when it comes in, right down to the point where we're number 5. So let me just go to number 5 here for a second. Right down to number 5, which is really making sure that you create purchase orders for your POS system. So when we go to place an order, we do it through our software POS system. And so why do we do that? Well, number 1, we want to avoid doing duplicate orders. So if we put it in through the system and we place the order, then it avoids doing duplicate orders. Number 2, it allows us to keep track of incoming orders. So if all of a sudden an order comes in, I want to compare the incoming order to the purchase order that I made through the software system. Number 3, it gives me this level of regaining control over the overall spending of inventory in the salon, which becomes quite obviously important. And then number 4, allows you to monitor purchase amounts versus sales items. So what I mean by that is, if I have my purchase orders in the system and I know last year how much I ordered for inventory at the holidays, and I know for whatever reason we sold between November and December, we sold 100 liters of product last year. If I know that from the system, then when I go to place my order this year, I'm probably going to order 15% more than I ordered from last year. So if I did 100 last year, then this year I might order 115, assuming my retail sales are continue to grow. So having those purchase orders in the system allows me to have a better understanding when box sets or Christmas packages or special promotions come up, and then I can say, okay, because the question always is, how many do I order? Well, I don't know, but I'm going to use history to tell me during the holidays, how many holiday packs should I be ordering? How many liters should I be ordering? All of our ordering for liters, all of our ordering for holiday packs are based on the previous year. That's how we determine how many are we going to use for this year. We take last year's, not what we ordered, but what we sold, times 15%. That tells us how many more we should be ordering for this year. Unless I'm in a situation where my retail sales are up 30 or 40%, whatever my retails are up this year over last year is usually the number I'm going to use as to, last year I sold 100 liters and my retail sales this year are so far up 20%, then I'm probably going to order 120 liters this year based on where the trend was from the previous year. Making sure you have those in there becomes critical. The other thing I will share with you, back to weekly ordering a product. The one time of the year that you cannot use last week's inventory as a benchmark is in the months of November and December. So let me kind of explain to you on a retail level how we look at November and December. Assuming you have a sales budget, month by month sales budget for your business, when we look at how much do we order for November, December, because here's what happens in salons. The bulk of the inventory you're going to need for November and December is usually ordered mid-October to the first part of November. So liters come out, holiday packs come out. So what I normally say to people is, let's take a look at how much my budget says I'm going to sell in retail for the months November and December. So I'm just going to make this up. So November budget is I'm going to sell $4,000. December's budget is $7,000. So I think in November, December, based on the trend of this year, I'm going to sell 11,000. If I'm in the United States, if I assume 52% is the benchmark, then I've got a budget of 5720 that I should be ordering in November and December. Chances are really good. 70% of my buy for the holidays is going to happen in November. So I might say of that 5720, 70% of that I'm going to spend in November. Why? Because I got to buy the liters, I got to buy the holiday packs, which means my budget in December is going to be lower. Why? Because I've already got the inventory in place. So in November and December, we allocate 70% of what our sales budget's going to be as the buy-in because of the holiday season. And then what ends up happening in December, it's kind of like, it's more flow inventory. So it's just the kind of the regular items that I'm ordering day in and day out is what I'm ordering in December. But in our company, our retail business is 21% of our total sales. So we sell a lot of retail and we order a ton of liters. We order a ton of holiday packs because we know 60% of the people who are buying liters and holiday packs are buying them for themselves, not buying them for gifts. So we just know we're going to sell a lot of those, but we want to make sure that we don't run out. So that's how we adjust the inventory based on the months November and December. All right, we got 2 minutes left. Any questions? Is this helping you guys? Yes. Yes.
Would
Yes.
it also possibly make sense to use your retail sales from November, December of the previous year to set your budgets for your reorder for November, December?
Yeah, 100%, Natasha. I mean, if I know what I did last year and I look at the trend, I've been trending, my retail's up 15%, then my budget that I should already have in place. See, here's my point. If I don't have a sales budget for retail for October, November, December, I'm in trouble because then I have no guideline of what I should be ordering. So as Natasha's saying is, if I know what I did last year for November, December, and I know my retail has been running 15% this year versus last year, then quite obviously, I just take November and December last year times 15%, and that they become the goals I'm going to use for this year in terms of budgets, but then which also will equate into my ordering. Yes, time.
Good morning. I have a question, kind of coming to the end of the year. It seems like we have like loyalty points, like where we can get Gratis and everything, and they expire at the end of the year. But I'm also kind of concerned with, I can use all of that, but to your point earlier, when you were talking about leaving the pricing as it is in the POS. So if I normally pay $10 for something, but I'm getting it for free, technically my inventory is showing that I have $10 that I paid for. Currently, what I'm doing is I'm just having my inventory manager like keep a record of what we actually have spent in points and like what that equates to. Is that the right way to do it? Or is there a better way to manage that at the end of the year? So I'm not necessarily taxed on everything that's physically there, only what I've paid for. And is that right?
Yeah, great. That is a brilliant question. How we do it is we don't add it in as inventory because then we're going to get taxed on it. So what we do is just assume when we do the inventory count that our inventory is our cost of goods is going to be lower. Our cost of goods is going to be lower. Why? Because we have free inventory that's helping. Because when I go to do the count, the best way to really do it is if you can track it and know how much free stuff you get, then what I do is I just you can leave it totally on the inventory. But it's technically going to lower your cost of goods because you're not going to have to buy the back bar shampoo you normally would be buying. So what you might find is rather than your back bar expense being 10%, it might be 9% or 8% because I'm getting all of these liters and all this back bar product. So the best thing to do is when you go to count it, just like ignore it, so to speak, so that it doesn't confuse the financial part of your business, which is exactly how we do it in our company.
I think the trick we've tried that. The trick we run into is like we have like a designated area for our, what we call empties. So
Yes.
anything that's empty gets then pulled out of inventory, so it's accounted. So maybe I need to readjust so that once, instead of having everything in back bar and once it's empty, it gets pulled from inventory, it maybe should be pulled from inventory once it goes into use.
Right. Well, honestly, here's what we do in our company. This is going to sound kind of crazy, but you know those stickers, like round colored stickers.
Yeah.
When we get inventory, we put those colored stickers on the bottom of the bottle. And if it's liters and we got a ton of liters, we'll take the liters, we'll throw them on the retail shelf and we'll sell them.
Okay.
But then on the bottom, we have these stickers that tell us we didn't pay for the product, but we still are tracking that in the system so that we know. So our cost of goods effectively becomes lower.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We survived part 1 of inventory cost control. So thank you, everybody. Did you guys enjoy today? Did this help you guys? Thumbs up. You're good. We're good with everything. Okay. I can't remember when our next one is. I think it's in 2 weeks' time, but I'm sure you have that information. So thank you so much, everybody, and we'll be in touch. And thank you for being part of Summit. Most importantly, thank you for being part of community. There's a lot of great forums that are coming up over the next number of weeks. So please feel free to jump in and join as many of those as possible. Thanks all. Take care, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.